Welcome to Mentor Time. This is the first Mentor Time of 2024. We are coming up on a 3-year anniversary in 2 months from the time that Ron and I started this in early March. As I look back, and as you'll see today, a reminder, Peter especially, who's been with us from the beginning, of the things we've talked about in different ways and the value that it brings to you all. I do hear occasionally from those of you who can only watch the recordings after the meeting, because I know the hours don't work for everybody, but I'm appreciative, and Ron is as well, to know that these topics resonate and help you out. So remember, if you don't want to be recorded, just turn your screen off. And today we're talking about leaving or being left behind and how to do it gracefully. Our usual will continue. We usually have 3 parts to Mentor Time. Ron, I forgot to tell you, you're featured today. So am I. Ron's going to tell us about when he's deciding to leave an organization or a company. And then Ron's going to say, oh, Ron, you're leaving. Sue's going to talk about this from the point of the manager. The org we're talking about is Sue Mentors. And as we always do, we end with, what should you do? Meaning, what are the implications for you? This is just to show you that over the almost 3 years of Mentor Time, in one way or another, all of these topics have covered: how do you leave things gracefully? How do you know when it's time to make a change? And how do you do that without affecting your career path? And I think I forgot to put these in order, but I think the bottom left, how to quit your job after less than a year, was the most recent one. We also have another topic area just generally on this, but what I want to talk about, leaving gracefully, has to do with things, whether it's a defined period or not. There are all sorts of things we get involved in our career, and we don't always think of these as a job as we think of a job. Oh, I'm going to quit my job. But mentoring programs. Right now, the course cohort just opened up. You all know that because you've been part of, Sue asked you to support it. When I ask people over and over again, every week they get reminders, or people who haven't finished registering, I say, if you don't want to continue, I understand, just click this. There's 3 quick questions to answer. And I'm still not hearing from people that I know are not going to continue. But the good news is, and it's especially this week as step 1 was due today, I am hearing from some people who life gets in the way, and we know that. So when life gets in the way, what does this mean? Here's my takeaway message for you. Smile. So in any case, you have to make the best of the situation. It is your opportunity to get known and noticed for your grace. And that is whether you're the person leaving or you're the person left behind, meaning usually the manager and the team you're leaving in some fashion. Ron and Sue work together at Sue Mentors, that's all we know about each other. This much of our life is in the Venn diagram of the org. Ron and I probably know a little bit more than that because we chit-chat before and after and during planning sessions, and we know where each other is geographically, but we have no breadth of understanding, and this happens with all of us in our work situations. So in the sense of leaving that, we remember, though, that the 2 of us, Ron and I, bring together our networks. So what one does in an organization or working with another person affects that person and their networks too sometimes. So let's start with Ron. When Ron says to me, Sue, you know what? I just can't continue this Sue Mentors work anymore, because Ron not only does Mentor Time, he does the review meetings with me. We do course number 2, which I promised Ron 3 months ago we were going to expand on, but we haven't finished that yet, or Sue hasn't finished that yet. Remember that behind everybody's decision to make a change is a variety of reasons they may be making these changes. Family issues, health issues, a better opportunity, wanting to change, just wanting a new challenge. There are a myriad, and I probably haven't even finished all of the things that are reasons for this. But when Ron is ready to leave, on the left-hand side are all the things that he did before he even announced it. On the right-hand side are those things that the minimum he needs to do, which is communicate through, if you can, an in-person or in Zoom person, screen to screen, meeting with a manager or supervisor. That should be your first point of contact to make sure that you can go forward. I've said this in a couple of the previous webinars before. Your job to make sure the transition goes well is to set up a meeting with the supervisor, not just for who's going to do my work after I'm gone, but also what is it that you want said about it? How much control is your manager going to let you have about turning over to the client? The client needs to be reassured. Internal teams or other collaborators that you work with need to be reassured that things aren't going to go south. And I've made this point before. In the United States, you must put your resignation in writing to HR. Otherwise, it isn't considered official. And this can hamper people if they don't follow this. I always say make it a letter, but there are people resigning by email. This isn't the place to go into that. And as you see, these again are all these different topics that we've covered aspects of today on. All right, so this is Sue gets this news. Ron said to me, "Oh, I just can't continue with this anymore. I want to go and I want to sit on the beaches of Mexico more." That's where he is right now. Sue's range of emotions could be, "Thank you very much, Ron. It's been great having you." Sue could be turning off the screen to her video and saying, "Oh my God, what am I going to do without him?" Or maybe she just leaves him to pack up his desk or his virtual desk and walk away. These are all the kinds of reactions you can expect. But let me tell you a story about how I learned to do this. I was not young when this happened to me. I was working with Rick on the right, who was the international master trainer who has basically revolutionized competency-based training for the global health world. With Luna, who's on the left in the green and black jacket. Luna and Rick and I were in Zimbabwe doing a workshop together. A year later, in 1996, Luna sent a note to Rick and me saying that she was leaving Zimbabwe to go work at Planned Parenthood in Johannesburg. And I went up to Rick's office and I said, "How can she do this? And this is terrible. And Luna's so great. We can't lose her." And he said to me, "Sue, be happy for Luna. She's going to be a role model for other organizations that don't do competency-based training, that don't have a way to ensure that women get adequate and best quality reproductive health. She'll remember us and how we work together collaboratively, and she'll take that forward. We can't change her mind." And my takeaway on this, Rick would laugh if I told him this is what I remember, was he was saying, leave with a good working relationship and be happy for her. My takeaway was, okay, Sue, don't be so selfish just because you love working with Luna. Oh, thank you, Nada. You thought that with Ron? I hope Ron and I are going to continue this for a long time. And fast forward, I learned that from Rick, and I try always to remember this. I was really pleased a couple of years ago. I listened to Marketplace, which is a short evening. It's 5 days a week, sort of economic review, but they make it fun. Kai Ryssdal is a very well-known economics reporter in the US. And at the time, Molly Wood, who I first met as a tech person, but then she joined Kai and has since left, they were talking about Sitara leaving. And they did exactly what Rick said and what I've highlighted here. Acknowledge the positive. What happened because of this person? In this case, Sitara apparently encouraged them to take on doing every day, to do this marketplace something, like they call it marketplace. Oh, it's Make Me Smart. How could I forget? Make Me Smart. She encouraged them during the pandemic. Start this up. People need to hear things, and it's different topics every day. But also, they not only acknowledge the positive, but wished her the best. And I love that Kai said, I'm envious and jealous, because a lot of times we are also. The person being left behind is like, what? Now they get you? So I always think about that. And if you want to listen, I've circled you can go to the old podcast and listen to it, because it's nice to know that even big, important people get left behind, and it's hard for them too. And just to close Sue's section, she still has to remember her job is to communicate the departure to everybody who remains and the clients. I should have put up there. Make sure the game plan, whether it's different or the same, hiring or allocation of work, continues, and keep checking in with your remaining employees. I did see a few articles when I did my Google literature search to see if anything's new. These aren't new articles. They were from last year and the year before with quiet quitting and the big upheaval, great resignation. They were articles about sometimes it can be contagious. When one person quits, more people quit. That's a topic for another day. All right. Oops, I skipped over my wonderful picture. What should you do? Hopefully it's not like, ugh. We're going to take it from both points of view. If Ron decides to leave, write goodbye notes. Tailor them if you can, but it's okay to write a joint message. I should have put this in here. Don't send it out till a couple days before. And in one of the webinars, we've already gone over this. This was from Grammarly. It just came a week ago in a newsletter. And I just thought it was a good, succinct way to think about the 4 things to include in your message. What version goes to what person? When is your actual last day or last day in the office? Because people will want to say goodbye. Find one thing that you can say about the working environment, the work you did, one thing about the organization and the colleagues you're saying goodbye to, and acknowledge that. You don't have to go on and on writing a thesis on it. And then give your contact information. I've had people leave who say, I'll let you know when I get settled. And in this day and age where we all have personal and professional emails and often keep the two separate, it's easier. But there are still people I haven't been able to track down and that have left me behind. I'm not really an employer, but everybody who takes my course or the course with Ron and me and any mentees I work with, I still feel like we have these temporary relationships, as I said to you in those Leaving Gracefully. For me, for Sue, I was trying to make this third person, but for Sue being left behind, she's got to remember being respectful and being thankful for those people. And Rick Sullivan taught me this, to say to Luna, I'm so thrilled for you. I'm thankful we had the opportunity to do this with the on-the-job training workshop. Was one of our first tests of a way to do a very invasive procedure in an on-the-job training situation. But also that it communicates to the organization the value that person brought. Through the transition, you both need to communicate. Follow the plan, follow up with the client. For example, when I retired, I told my boss, I want to be able to call this federal government client. You know how close she and I have worked together. I will tell her this is what's happening. And then I'll let you know I've talked to her, and you can then go ahead and talk to her about what she wants for the transition. But I want to tell her before I even tell my staff, because it was that important a role as the evaluation organization for this federal government agency. And both of you need to identify from your points of view. For Sue, as the person who has someone leaving, you should, Sue, identify what did Ron bring to the organization, and make sure you highlight that with people, not just, oh, Ron's leaving us, but rather how and in what way you announce it. Or Ron left us. When he left, there was X and Y that he had brought to us. We couldn't replace him exactly, but we found blah, 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 and now we're moving forward. So whether you're going to do coverage and hiring differently or the same or some transition plan, but make it a positive for everybody, because we can all find things to nitpick about. And if you need someone to not role model, don't role model me, because I know how to hold grudges. Behind the scenes, Sue. Okay. What Ron the leaver needs to identify is not just his own contributions to Sue Mentors, but what did he learn by doing this? And to be able to talk about that. And he can talk about that in terms of his next job. He can go to someone else and say, what I was able to see when two of us from two different countries and government styles were working together for mentees, blah, blah, whatever he might have said to himself. He could say to himself now without leaving, Ron. All right, so winding up, leave or be left gracefully. This can apply to any situation. And I want to highlight one I read about last week. There are a number of people who are not even writing thank you notes after interviews. But there are also an increasing number who, even after they're being rejected by jobs and are notified, not just ghosted, if you're being rejected, take the opportunity to write, because I'm hearing from more recruiters and more hiring managers that those kinds of efforts mean the name sticks in the brain because they've got an email or a LinkedIn DM or an Instagram, however you communicated, text message. The name of, oh, he said, I really had hoped to work here. I understand that I'm not the candidate. I'd like to stay in touch. Your org was important to me because of X and Y. I learned this by talking to you. We all want feedback. We all want feedback. So let me stop there. I do. Oh, and my smile is to remind me for the takeaway. I'm going to try to do this. John Schwabus recommended I always end my presentation not with any questions, but rather, here's the takeaway. Remember to make the best of the situation, but also remember it's an opportunity for you to get known and noticed for grace, for gracefully handling something. So a few references, you'll get these when I send out the recording, and I'll stop there and see if Ron has, what comments Ron has. I saw him shaking his head, nodding his head, I should say.
Yeah, wow, this is really interesting because while you were explaining the idea, sort of from the contractor government point of view, I did much of my career was in the military, and I was thinking we could learn something in the military from this. And the reason I say that is because people get moved all the time. I got moved every few years and so on. And so there's always comings and going. It's a normal part of things. And it's quite acceptable and far less traumatic, which isn't entirely true because whenever you have changes, and usually there's posting season, so you've got usually a large turnover and then you fumble through it all. But the idea of the thank you notes and so on, I think are wonderful. And I think we miss that. Now, it's often what happens, certainly in the military, and I suspect in certain workplaces, they have some kind of a going away thing, and you'll get parting gifts and all that other stuff, which is usually a way. And then people get up and tell lies about or they'll tell stories and so on. And I remember when and this, and there will usually be some funny anecdotes and so on. But the real thing that you pointed out, Sue, is the idea of the accomplishments that were gained by everyone. In other words, there were accomplishments that the organization had because that person was there. There are accomplishments that the person got because that person was there, and so on. And this idea of there are other people you work with and they're going to miss you too, or they're going to wonder what happened to you or something. And so communicating it well with those clients or other people that you have relationships with is, I think, is really important. Yeah, this was, I thought, really good. Plus, Sue knows some of my history, and I had an unfortunate departure. And I'm thinking through that process that I went through where I ended up suing a prior employer. And I'm thinking through all the stuff that happened, which was the opposite of what Sue has been talking about, because I had a lawyer involved and so on. And he was advising me not to do some of the stuff that Sue is saying. And there was a reason for that, because we were building a legal case and so on and so forth. It's interesting, the idea of going gracefully, meaning this is a friendly relationship. It's wonderful. It's great. We work together. I gain something, you gain something, everybody gains something in the process, which that sounds a lot like developing a CV or a resume, because it's accumulating all that wonderful stuff that happened, gets stored there, and that's a reminder that that's the accomplishments that we had. And then there's the opposite, which is it ends up being a traumatic experience, or it's made horrible because one of the parties is angry or whatever. And so that's unfortunate when those things happen. So I like the way you phrased it, Sue, is it's graceful. A graceful departure. It's where it's normal. And there should be an element of grace, forgiveness, letting go, and peace, I guess is what it is. So thanks, Sue, for this excellent presentation.
Thanks, Ron. Those were great
I'm not leaving. If everybody's wondering, I'm not leaving. This was an example.
Luckily, it's employee and in company page relationships only. We get to do what we want. Thank you, Nada, for that. I love that emoji laughing at us. Yeah. I'm wondering, Peter, if I can put you on the spot. Do you want to talk about your recent change of job? Was this anything that we left out that we didn't cover? What else would you like to contribute or tell us your experience?
Sure. I was going to raise my hand in just a second anyways. Yeah, I've been actually on both sides of this in the last 6 months. So I was the leaver as I transitioned to my new job. And shortly after I started, less than a month after I started, I had somebody leaving my little unit. And so I've been on both sides of this. And the advice that you gave is fantastic. You guys, both you and Ron, helped me through that original transition process. But also it helped me to have already having those things on my mind. I was able to receive his information, that person that was leaving that well, and just say, okay, great for you. And I even pulled up some of the advice that I'd gotten from you and some other sources of the steps you need to take and how to notify people, and gave him a couple of quick things and making a communications plan and all of that, so that he was actually able to leave in a fairly good state, as good as we could hope. So I don't think I noticed any holes in what you said, but I found it all echoed again what I had done and was all really helpful.
Thank you, Peter. That's nice to know. I'm glad to hear about that. And yeah, you in many ways you had a great transition, but also one, oh, we're going to test you on, you didn't know, and probably no one knew this person was going to walk away in your first few weeks, just when you're depending on institutional memories. I'm glad to know, and I'm sure Ron is, that you had the wherewithal, that your brain was saying, wait, we've heard this before, go back and check on it. Because sometimes our immediate crisis reaction is fight or flight, and you're just like, I just gotta do something. That would be Sue. What? You're leaving me? Luckily, I learned from Rick, because I realized I was driving this morning home from the library, picking up a book, and realized I was trying to figure out when I'd last been an employee before 1995. And I hadn't been an employee for 20 years before that, because I'd lived overseas and I was in different jobs, and I had an employee relationship, but nothing like going in. I went into Japago at a very senior position. And so it was very different. I was very lucky to have Rick, as I'm very lucky to have Ron alongside, helping me fill in the gaps of what I don't know. And I love, Peter, I can extrapolate the example you present for us as you show up continually here in these professional development opportunities that we make available as much as you can. And I think you benefit from those. So a couple weeks ago, when you were looking for how to write job postings, better job postings, as we keep talking about here. So appreciate it, but also I'm glad you're getting the rewards of having done the work of being on top of proactively doing your professional development. Ron, a comment?
No, it's just, for me, that's an encouragement to hear from Peter. I'm not surprised when I'm hearing him say, because it's the preparation, this idea of being prepared for this, I think is really important. Being prepared for a move. I think what happens, certainly for young professionals who are really entering the workforce, there's a tendency to say, oh, thank goodness I got a job, and get into that mode. But at some point in time, there will be a leaving process. It's really, nobody has some people have 20-year careers, 30-year careers, where they stay with the same employer and just progress within the organization. But that's pretty rare anymore. So this idea of turmoil in the workplace, and unless the workplace is also providing for that growth, like in the military, that was part of the design of moving people around, is that you go from to progressive jobs with other challenges and so on. And so that's the idea, improving your skill set so you can be more valuable to the organization. So sometimes young professionals have to do this for themselves. They have to say that I could benefit from working in that environment and so on. So there's always this idea that at some point in time will be a departure of some form. And the idea of a graceful departure just sounds, the whole idea is such a wonderful concept.
I will move on then. Anybody have any questions or comments? Today was not meant to be long. We might actually stick to our original 30 minutes. All right, then I will remind you all, I looked ahead. So our next meeting is on the 22nd in 2 weeks. I called it Chat GPT and all the other GPTs. Now, I'm not going to go over 150 or how many different variations there are. What I'm going to try to do is give you the ways in which I've discovered or have learned about from other people, that's more likely, opportunities to use them. And what have I seen with using ChatGPT and Claude and Bard and these programs you see me log on to today? I used Fathom. Occasionally I use TLDV because anything free for transcripts I want to be able to get. What have I been able to do for things? What does it mean for all of you? Is my hope that I can then give you some sense of not necessarily what should I do, but rather here's a couple things that I think you want to start building into your practice. I'm using some of them more and more for transcripts to get meeting summaries out of. And especially when I record feedback for people, when we don't have a meeting set up and there's not another person on Fathom, and none of these transcript recording things recognize just a single person talking into the thing. Fathom doesn't record, TLDV doesn't record. So using a transcript, getting summaries, what seems to be a good way, including I've been using Zoom AI Companion. I just forgot to turn it on today. So I'll try to give you some comparisons of what I think is working in the efforts, as I often do, of talking about tools that will increase the efficiency without, thank you, Ron. The problem is you only get it from the time you start it, right? And it's just like the transcript that they originally had. And if that's the problem is I have to remember to do it. And I haven't added it to my list, which is now going to be a big, long card. So
it's interesting. That's new. I didn't realize you had to actually do it. When you enable transcript before, the summary was automatic. I just saw that now. And so that's an improvement, whatever that means.
And it also, now in the week between when I first tried it early on and about a month ago, now they email it to you so you can get it, but it's still not easy. It's not as easy to get as some of the others. So it's more just knowing what the tools are and what you want to do with it. What you're not going to hear is a recommendation to do one thing or the other. It's just going to be ideas for you to start to take forward, because I think most people are finding it hard to figure out when is it more efficient for me to now go to ChatGPT versus when I've always done it this way. This is good enough. So that's where I'm going with our next topic. That will likely, I'll just say that's going to be 45 minutes because there's a lot to discuss there. I think Abby joined us. I know Abby usually can't say very much and we get her through the chat box. And Abby, I'm sorry that you missed some of it, but you will have the link to the recording. I'll try to get that out tonight. So Ron, I'll ask you to close our first meeting of 2024, if you will.
Yes, thank you everyone for coming out this early in the year. So here we are. And hopefully everybody's been learning how to, or remembering to write 2024. I've been practicing it a bit. So thanks again for coming out. I think the next subject is going to be very interesting because it's going to remain current for the rest of our lives, I have a feeling, or variations on it. So personally, I'm looking forward to it as well. And I think it's going to be good. Have a great time. And some of you some will be joining who are hearing this, who will be joining the cohort later this week. They may actually sit in on this mentor time. Looking forward to seeing those folks later this week. So thanks very much.
Thanks. See you all soon. Bye, Peter. Bye, Abby. Bye, Nada. Thanks for
Peter's
coming.
got his hand up.
He's clapping.
Oh, he's clapping. Sorry.
That's okay.
Bye, guys.
See you
Bye-bye.
later.
Bye.
Yes.